Buenas, buenas. Welcome to Music Marketing TV. Today, we're going to start a masterclass on Pro-C from FabFilter. So in these first classes, we're going to be looking at the basic stuff. We're going to be understanding the GUI, how it works. Also, I'm going to answer some frequently asked questions that we often get about FabFilter Pro-C. And then we're looking at more advanced stuff like using the sidechain, and then as well as using the mid-side functionality from Pro-C, which a lot of people don't know about. So it's going to be 5 to 6 videos in the series. And in this one, we're covering just the GUI, like I said. So let's take a listen to the demo track that I have here. And we're not really doing anything else besides using the clean style right now. We're going to move into different models as well in different videos. So in this one, like I said, we're going to focus on all the parameters, where to find certain parameters, how to access the manual, stuff like that. Okay? Let's take a listen to the demo we have. Well, there we go. That's the little demo I have. Now, what we're going to do is we're basically going to run through an exercise. We're going to look at the main compressor features, and then we're going to look at the inputs and output section. Actually, we should look at that first because that's a FAQ that we get. And then we're looking at the sidechain section. So without further ado, let's look at Pro-C here. Here we have the view for the incoming waveform, and then we have the compressed waveform. So we can see up here how we have in grayed out the original waveform we got in, and then as I apply compression, we get this white waveform, and the red line right here, which is how much compression we're applying to the signal. And we also have 2 meters over here. We have the red, which is again the compression that we're doing, and then over here we have this peak in yellow, and that's the peak metering. And then we have the RMS, or the average. So if we take the auto off, we see that this signal drops even further. If we have auto, we need to do a little bit less of adjustment. And right now I'm really squashing the signal. As you can hear, it's very loud, even though I brought down the signal all the way down here. And as you can see, once I clip the little dial over here, it turns red. So pretty standard metering. Let's drop back here so we can speak and play back the audio at the same time. As you can see there, this compressor just went in, and because the ratio is so high and the threshold is so low, it was really aggressive at the start. But if I bring the threshold up, bring back the gain over here, as long as I have the auto, I have a pretty good match between the input level and the output. Now, where can I find my inputs and outputs? It's quite simple. If I go down here to this section, I can click on it and select my input level, and you can see here that my waveform is decreasing, or I can add more inputs. And essentially now I'm clipping going into FabFilter Pro-C. Just bring this back down to 0 dB. And over here I have the output level. So basically there's another option to do even more gain staging before I go into my next plugin. Also have a mix. So this is basically going from the clean signal to 100% being affected by the compressor, all the way to more aggressive settings, as we heard earlier. If we press Control and left click, we can reset the parameters back to their initial position. Here's the bypass button as well. And it's click free, so it's very, very smooth, and you don't get these nasty pops that we usually see in other compressors. So that's the input and output section, and the metering section as well. If we go over here to the threshold, we can see that as we drag this down, we have the graph that comes down as well. And basically, now you can control the slope with the ratio and with the knee tool as well, or the range and the knee. See that? So if I wanted to have something that's quite aggressive, I'll bring the knee all the way down and bring the ratio all the way down. And now essentially, we have a limiter. If I bring the range down over here, that means that even if I bring the threshold down, the cap I can set a cap basically where is the maximum position or dB of compression I can make. So in this case, if we go to 6, we can say that the maximum compression we can do is 6 dB. So even if I bring this further down, it's not really doing much. See that? Whereas if I didn't have this, or had it down to 60 dB, I can do way more compression. So this is good for when you're doing a dialogue on top of music. So what you could do is bring the threshold pretty much down to -20, something around there, and then bring the range down to -6. So that whenever you have your vocal feeding into the music, you can get the music to duck appropriately. So right now we've been using the mastering algorithm, but there's different algorithms and they all sound quite different. So let's bring down the ratio down here to around 2 or 3 to 1, and then bring the threshold down to, let's say, 25. Bring the range back up. Okay, now I'm gonna hop between the different algorithms, but I'm gonna pump up the output, so get ready for that. And now you're probably saying, hey, that's probably too much compression on anything. But you know, when you want to hear what a compressor is actually doing, I suggest you guys bring the threshold down even more to exaggerate what you're doing. So if I was doing this, of course, in a real life scenario, I'd probably have this around -8. Probably make the attack and the release a little bit slower. And of course, I would be using something like the mastering preset or the clean one. See how drastically different they sound? So this is something we're going to look at more in depth in a different class. But in this one, we're going to skip right over it, keep it on mastering. Now, if we have the look ahead here, we have to turn it on down here. So remember to come down all the way down here, because that's another FAQ that we often get. People saying, hey, why is the look ahead grayed out and I can't, access it? Well, you have to turn it on over here. So basically with the look ahead, now we can feed in the signal to Pro-C2 up to 20 milliseconds beforehand. So then Pro-C2 can start calculating what to do next. So now, as you can hear, it's taming a lot of the transients, whereas before it was letting some of them slide. Let's bring the look ahead all the way down again. See there, it's again compressing those attacks and those transients. Now, if I went over to the release, I can set this to be a little bit slower. So now it doesn't pick up everything, and boost it after the fact. Because if I were to bring the release down here, it's starting to raise up all these instruments from the back. So I don't want that. Let's turn the look ahead off. Also, if you're using look ahead, you probably don't want to be using it when you're recording someone, because then Pro-C2 is no longer working in real time. If you have it turned off, however, you can record someone with Pro-C2 and have really low, latency. Yeah. There's also a setting for oversampling. So if you're going to be using this in a mastering application, I suggest you do so. If you're also using some sidechaining and you're trying to narrow down on the high frequencies, or you're doing some cool side tricks, like I'll show you guys in future videos, you guys are going to want to have the oversampling turned on. So let's turn it off for now. Now if I come over here to the wet gain, you see that I have a gain knob for the compressed signal, and I also have a dry gain. What this means is that I can do some parallel compression. So if I bring this up right here, I can add some thickness to the sound. Again, if you're going to be doing this trick, you're probably going to want to compress your the signal a little bit harder, like I've done so in this case, where I brought it down to -22, have a ratio of 6 or higher, and then feed it back in, mix it. Again, you can use the output level to further mix this, Let's close this section right here. And from this, we're going to hop over to the sidechain section. And what I'm going to do here is I'm basically going to show you guys how to set up a sidechain really quickly. In future video, we're going to go more in depth into this. But right here, I'm going to send the kit to the re space right here. Sidechain to this track. And now notice how I have all this high-end information. So what I want to do is remove some of the low end when I send it to sidechain signal. So I'm going to go to Pro-C2. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to tell it, hey, activate the sidechain. And I can use internal sidechain. So I can actually have an instrument focus more on, let's say, if there's a lot of high percussion, I can compress the signal more if there's more percussion. Or if there's too much bass in something, I can use the bass signal to compress the signal. So that's quite cool. In this case, I'm going to use the external. And I'm going to low pass this. Activate the low pass, and I'm going to go to the processing tab so I can add the sidechain signal. In this case, I'm going to right click, select the sidechain. Oh, I put it on the wrong bus. I'm just going to copy paste it. Okay. And now I should be able to go to the processing and add the drum kit. So even if I have the not the stems, but well, it is a stem, but the group bus, and only the group bus, and not the individual audio files for the drum kit, what I can do is low cut this so I can get the kick drum and the snare to just trigger the compression on my bass. So let's go ahead and do this. And let's activate the bass. I'm going to remove the drum kit from the output. So now we can actually see here that we have some ducking going on. Now I can audition the input, in this case the drums. I can make this more aggressive by changing the slope. So let's say I only wanted to use the kick. I can lower this down here. And now you're going to need a sub to hear this. But we can just barely hear the punch of the kick, or the subbiness of it. Okay. And now what I'm going to do is set the release to be a little bit faster. I can also tell this to hold. And this is going to come in handy in one of the next videos. And I'll explain why later. But here we go. Let's play this back together. Now you can get the bass to move out of the way from the drums. Also, for this, you probably want to turn off the auto gain. That's the mistake I did right there. There you go. Now I can bring this level back up to where it was before. If I take it off, you see that there's no more space for the kick drum to come in and be punchy. So, turn this back on. And we get a punchy drum kit. Now, if I wanted to do something similar for the hi-hats, I could do that. But on the ARP, sidechain the ARP through the hi-hats or through the snare, we could do that. And I'll show you guys in a different video how to basically sidechain a whole set of different EDM tracks, because it's very important to sidechain when you're making or use sidechain compression when you're working with dance music. So I'm going to leave this video here. But before I do, let me show you guys where to look for the manual. If you guys go to help, you guys can select the help topics or show interactive help hints. If you have that turned on when you hover over something and you leave your mouse there for a second or two, you guys are going to see some information up there on the parameter that you're hovering over. See this? Now we have information on the release. So again, we can go to help topics, and we could also go to about, and also go to the FabFilter website. So we can have easy access to the manual from here. So I'm going to leave this first introductory video right here. In the next video, we're going to be looking at the different models, and we're going to go really in depth on the different models for the compressor. And the following one is going to go much more in depth on the sidechaining. And after that, we're going to be looking at the stereo linking and sidechaining information here. So yeah, we're going to be going really in depth with FabFilter Pro-C 2. So make sure you guys subscribe to the channel, leave a like if you enjoyed the video. Make sure you guys leave any comments, any questions that you guys might have on Pro-C 2 or on compression in general, so I can answer them in future videos. Once again, I'm Kevin Ochoa with Music Marketing TV, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Peace.